I want to welcome each and every one of you to day 7 of what has been an incredible week. We started last Sunday, and every single day we've had 3 or 4 different astrologers, spiritual teachers, or scientists share their wisdom with us in the pre-recorded interviews. And then we've had these live Q&A panels where everything has really been able to come to life. And it has been such a pleasure to share all of this with you. Just a little sneak peek, we are going to have an encore day tomorrow. So the encore day, we're going to send out an email after this broadcast. You're going to be able to vote for your top 3 talks. These can either be the 3 that you loved the most that you would love to watch again, or the ones that you missed that you're really bummed you missed. You can vote for those too. And then we're going to have an encore day tomorrow. So if you can clear a little space in your schedule to catch up with what you missed, that would be fantastic. I wanted to start today, since it's our final day, with a lot of thank yous, or mahalos, as we say here in Hawaii. The first thank you that I wanted to extend is to the speakers. We have had 23 speakers as a part of this event who gave us a resounding and enthusiastic yes when we invited them. And we really hand-selected a group of people that we thought would really come together with an incredible picture for all of you, a picture that would leave you feeling hopeful and inspired and intrigued. And that is exactly what has happened. So I want to thank each and every one of the speakers for their contributions and for everything that it's taken to get them to this point. It takes a lot of courage to be in your truth, to show up and express yourself and be in that full expression, especially in a public way. So I want to thank all of you for everything that you've done to get to this point where you can so beautifully and eloquently and lovingly express your message. I want to thank the Astrology Hub A-Team Angels. We have Samantha, Robin, Stephanie, Anna, Jamie, Natalie, Donna, and Chris, who is also the co-host of this summit. I want to thank the A-Team Angels for everything that they have done to contribute to this event. It takes a lot, you guys, a lot of work. We've been working on this almost for 6 months. I started to look back at when we were first coming up with the title and the idea and the concept, and it was about 6 months ago. So there is so much that goes into creating this event. And what I love about this team is that they make it look effortless. They make it look easy. And the other thing is that they contribute more than just their hours and more than just doing their job. They actually bring their heart and their soul. Here in Hawaii, we would say that the mana, or the spirit, is so present. And I really believe that is what helps everything come together and have the energy or vibration that it does, that all of you can hopefully feel. So I want to thank the A-Team Angels for that. I want to thank the universe. I want to thank this amazing, incredible, magical, glorious universe for being here and for supporting this. Wow, sorry. I always get emotional at this point. For supporting this incredible creation that is Astrology Hub, and for being here and communicating so clearly and helping us stay in the right lane. If we were swimmers, helping us stay in the right energy or vibration, because I know that it is incredibly important the way that the language of the universe or the language of the stars is translated. And so thank you for helping us choose the speakers that we choose and for helping us have the right language and the right energy behind everything we do. I know that my entire team and all these speakers, we feel the presence of the universe and we know that it is there. It is not a philosophical belief. It is there. It is part of everything that we do. So much gratitude for that knowing. Okay. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank all of you. Without you, we can't do this. When we have these ideas, when we have these concepts, they're visions. You know, they exist in the other dimensions still. And then the team that I have, we all work together to make them real. And then you meet us, and your energy and your curiosity and your support is what makes it actually come to life. So I want to thank all of you for showing up the way that you have all week long, for the support, for the love, for the gratitude that is poured forth. I want to thank everyone also who has shared this event, who has taken the time to think, oh, wow, you know, I have a friend or a family member or someone else who could benefit from this. And I'm just going to take that extra little effort to click share. And you've done that. And you've actually helped us to reach more people. So thank you so much for that. And I want to thank all of you who have purchased the upgrade package, and not just the upgrade package, but all of you who are a part of our paid elements of Astrology Hub. I just want you to know that it's because of you that we can actually offer all of this amazing free content. So this free event, all of our new and our full moon articles, all of our forecasting events, all the events that we do that are free, and we love to share as much as we possibly can. It's because of you that we can do this. It takes a lot to run this ship. It takes a lot of energy and resources. And because of you and your contributions and your trust in us to continue to offer quality products, we're able to offer the wisdom of astrology to more and more and more people. And you know, it's the astrologically curious who might not yet be ready to buy something, but it's amazing, which is totally okay. We all were there at some point, right? But it's amazing that we get to actually offer high quality, amazing content for those people so that they can actually see, like, maybe this is right for me. Maybe I want to go deeper. Maybe I want to take a course. Maybe I want to, you know, become an astrologer someday. It's all of these things. It's all of you out there who have actually taken that step of purchasing something that allows us to continue to offer this for free. And again, that isn't any more valuable than the people that have shared it, the people that have talked to their friends about it. All of you, I'm so grateful. I wanted to share a few quotes from audience members because they really encapsulate the energy and really confirm to me that what we put out there has been received the way that we were hoping that it would. So Sally says, this summit has been amazing. My mind and my heart expands more and more with every speaker. Thank you, Amanda and Astrology Hub, for all that you do to inspire, encourage, and enlighten us all. And then this one is really, really, really powerful as well. It came in today and I read it and went, yes, oh my gosh, so cool. It says, this past week, I was able to tune into several of the talks and Q&As. What happened was I got to experience a shift. While the rest of my world was tuning into the bad news in the media, I was reminded of a greater message. Cheered me up so much and feeling a healthy sense of detachment from the drama, feeling light and full of love. The talks were really good. I wish I could keep them and listen to them again, which you can with the upgrade package. But thank you, Amanda, and to everyone who participated. Was just the spark I needed to bring me back to this place of certainty. Thank you. Yes, we can. That to me is like the number one hope or intention of this event, that in the midst of drama, in the midst of negativity, in the midst of all the things that seem so heavy that are happening in the world, that we can come together as a community and we can inspire each other and we can uplift each other and we can stay tuned into the truth. Even if it's happening in our lives, we can have that one foot in the realm of spirit, knowing that that is actually the reality and that everything that's playing out here is playing out, and this level of detachment that this audience member was able to cultivate this week, I hope that it stays with all of you. Not detachment like you don't care, not detachment like you're not involved in any way, but detachment. There's a lot of things that happened in my own week this week, and at one point I just started laughing. It actually started to feel comical. I was able to tune into the light and the humor and the human drama that we're all a part of. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, each and every one of you, for all of the different contributions that have been made. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Without further ado, let's go into our questions. We've been gathering your questions for our speakers today. Before we do that, I want to give them each an opportunity to introduce themselves. We have such a beautiful panel today. The energy behind the scenes before we went live was like electric in a beautiful way. So I'm excited to share them with you. All right, Sherene, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself first?
I'm Sherene Vismaya. I'm in San Francisco, and I'm a Jungian analyst and a authentic movement teacher, which is, I do many different things, but and an astrologer, obviously. But maybe not obviously, because there's actually a lot of really amazing new people coming in from different backgrounds. But yeah, so I'm really happy to come together with all of you to talk about the connection between the body and astrology and movement and astrology, because in my psychoanalytic practice, I found that to be one of the most healing modalities that I've worked with, especially with women, in terms of like moving emotion and feeling through the body, and also healing trauma, movement and self-expression through the body. And the link between astrology is really incredible. So I'm very excited to share anything I can about that to help anyone who has an interest in, you know, somatic practices or the connection between astrology and somatics.
Very nice, Sherene. Thank you. If there's any chance you could increase your volume and or throw on a headset, I think it would really help us be able to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, my computer's on its last
It's
leg.
okay. Steph, if you can mute her while she's trying to get that set up, that'd be great. And in the meantime, we will go to Adam.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Elenbaas. I'm an astrologer and also yoga studio owner. My wife and I have a studio here in the DC area, so kind of split my time between trying to make sure the yoga studio is working well and just doing a ton of astrology. So, and I'm really happy to be here. I think this is a great confluence of astrological forces and inspiration. So I'm just very honored and humbled to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, Adam. So for the Astrology Hub, Sherene and Adam are two new astrologers that we're featuring. So it's always wonderful to see the Ohana or the family growing, and we're grateful to have you here, Adam. Thank you. Okay, and Tashi dos Santos. Let's hear from you.
That's me. That's my name. Well, so I can start by saying I'm also an astrologer, and I work with an intuitive platform linked up to my own Gypsy heritage and lineage, but I also work with the Hellenistic system when working with astrology. And I'm also a mystic, so that includes working with concepts such as the shadows and shamanism and developing oneself in various ways. A lot of what I do, I don't like talking about online, but you can read about it. And it's just so great to be here finally. I've been really looking forward to this and hoping to get network, and I've got it. I'm hiding away in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and I can do this. So let's do it.
Let's do it. This is always one of the fun things about working with Tashi is we don't know where she's going to be in the world. We don't know if she's going to have internet access. She is truly living the gypsy life still. So, so wonderful to learn from you. Okay, let's start. And actually, Sherene, I just want to test your audio real quick. Uh-oh, now you're totally muted. Hold on, Stephanie, can you unmute her? Okay, try again.
How is that?
Can you turn up the volume on your computer maybe?
Yeah, is that better?
Keep going. Keep going.
It's all the way up.
It's all the way up. Okay. Maybe put the mic as close to your mouth as possible.
Okay. You know what? I don't know if these have.
Okay. All right. So I'll start with a question for Adam Elenbaas. You mentioned an ancient astrologer who wrote about planetary rulerships and detriments, Retorius. Please give the title of that book and someone to the effect of Vedius Balance. Tried to Google both but couldn't find with my spellings. Are you remembering?
Yeah, so the best translation that you'll find for Retorius is by James Holden. You can find it on Amazon, and it's just called Retorius the Egyptian. You're talking about a text from the Hellenistic period, so a lot of them have very generic titles, like a compendium of astrological information was often called apotelismatics, or something really generic that meant like the study of outcomes or something like that. So you just find Retorius the Egyptian on Amazon, and that should be good. And then Vedius Balance piece, which is arguably one of the best source texts just because it's so massively long and includes so many wonderful chart analyses, so that's Vedius Balance. That's called the Anthology. You can find the Anthology. There's a free version online in PDF form, and I'm trying to remember the name of the translator. But if you search Vedius Balance Anthology PDF on Google, you should be able to find it. But if not, there are translations on Amazon as well. I can't personally speak to the quality because I haven't read them, but anyone who's going to go to the painstaking lengths of translating ancient texts, it's probably decent enough to, get the good points across. So you can find both on Amazon.
Fantastic. Adam, can you spell the name?
Oh boy, now you're putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
It's a long one.
Okay, so I think there. Oh, whoops! It's being sent privately. How do I put it into the? Oh, all panelists and attendees. Okay, here we go. Vedius, Balance, and Rhetorius, the Egyptian. I'm pretty sure there's 2 T's in Vedius, but you know.
Okay. All right. So that went into the Zoom chat. Stephanie,
Wow.
put that into the Facebook chat too. That'd be great. All right. Yeah, that was like a little spelling bee moment for you. All right. So, okay. So this is a question for Sherene. An Inner Circle member, Gail, asks, in your free gifts of the archetypes of the Zodiac, what does it mean when you say, for example, if you have one problem, work with Capricorn? What does that look like?
Okay. So is it better? Okay, good.
So much better. Wow.
Okay, good. Okay. So Capricorn tends to bring up issues around, there's 2 things I was alluding to. First, fear, guilt, and shame are sort of the 3, I always say, like the inner demons we're struggling with when Capricorn gets triggered. Because it's linked to the archetype of the devil in the tarot, that major arcana, the 15th major arcana key of the tarot deck. So it often is a way for us to work on any shame or fear or guilt that we're carrying in the body. And sometimes, I mean, if you know the connection between Capricorn and the knees, if you think about fear actually being contained in our knees, like feeling weak at the knees when you're fearful. So we do a lot of strengthening of the knee area specifically. And then obviously on the subtle body level, we're working on wherever the trauma or the fear or the guilt or the shame is being stored. Shame is a big one with trauma. Often that comes up when we work with Capricorn. So just as an example of the connection between the 2.
Okay, thank you, Sherene. And one more thing with the audio. When it's going to be really hard. If you
Like this?
not hit the thing, because it's actually just making a little thing. And that's really hard though, because I know I'm a person who talks.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Me too.
Yeah.
We're all like this.
It's all the passion that comes through. Okay. And actually, I have to read something, Adam, about the Raggedy Ann doll, because before we came on, we were talking about the Raggedy Ann doll, and I was like, we're probably gonna have to talk about it. Audie says, whoa, I had a dream last night of my old Raggedy Ann doll that I had when I was a child, and there it is right behind Adam. Love the signs. How cool is that?
That is
That's
cool.
really cool.
She's my muse. All the answers I'm just downloading straight from Raggedy Ann. So
He goes everywhere with Raggedy Ann on his shoulder.
Love that.
All right.
That is a marvelous synchronicity, though. That's cool to hear.
that is really
Yeah,
cool.
definitely.
Okay, actually, Chris, I feel bad now. I didn't have you introduce yourself. I was assuming you were music.
That's quite all right.
Doing that right now. We did it
A
earlier.
mysterious beard.
Yeah. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Chris. I had the beautiful opportunity to co-host a lot of this lovely summit that you're all watching, and thank you so much for taking part of it. It's so great to hear the encouraging feedback we've been getting on it. It's been fantastic. But I've also been studying astrology for a long time, but I'm a writer and artist on many different paths. So that's my brief little summary of some of the things that I do.
More.
Chris, feel free to jump in at any and all points. All right. Okay, actually, I'm going to ask Tashi a question, and then Sherene, of course, I knew this was coming. Everyone wants to know
Yeah.
sign, of course, right? Okay, and we'll get to that. So Tashi, an IC member, Claire, asks, what is the significance of Lilith now in Aquarius?
Love this topic. Okay, so you're all noticing how the hype around the revolt with the divine and sacred feminine is just blasting. The second Lilith shifted into Aquarius. Have you noticed also online there's so much, like tomorrow we have this black screen day for women where everyone has to put a black screen on their social media accounts to demonstrate the revolution of what they're suffering and what they're keeping inside. So this is one way to demonstrate that. So there's so much happening on that level, and I think it's only going to get more and more extreme because it's rebellious. That's what Aquarius is when it wants to be heard, and it's the suppressed pain and suffering of the collective of that principle of the divine and sacred feminine energy. And I think it's lifetimes and even centuries, I mean, all coming into this moment right now. And as you know, Lilith works through approximately 9-year cycles. So this is something that's come back again. And if we look back at when she was in Aquarius, just to see the big jump of what's taken place then until now, I think it would be really interesting.
Tashi, I'd love to read a couple quotes from your talk.
Yeah, go for it.
I would love for people to just sit with these words from your talk that was released today. If the imbalances around the divine and sacred masculine energy are not understood, and if we don't heal and reclaim that, then there is no way that we can really heal and reclaim in the divine and sacred feminine energy, because the masculine is a protector. It is the container. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. What would you like me to start with?
Well, it's just, it's so like relevant right now. It's so in the spotlight. And so just when you say that they need to be understood, the divine feminine and the sacred masculine, they need to be understood. What do you feel we are not understanding right now?
That it's not a division, you know, it's not what is better or what should dominate or what should rule, or, you know, the tip is happening because of the extremes. And that normally comes from an abuse of not understanding one or the other or both. And when roles get tipped, you know, or energies get put into this context that we're dealing with right now, this is exactly what happens. And I think to understand them, especially the divine and sacred feminine energy, we need to understand the divine and sacred masculine. I think the issue is that we're now completely, you know, rejecting what that is, and then a real healing won't be able to take place.
Thank you.
So do you think one aspect that's like for men to also access that element of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine within them, as well as women embodying that sacred feminine, the sacred masculine principle?
You cut out a bit there, Chris. Maybe it's
Oh,
just
did
my...
I?
Yeah, sorry. Can you say that again? Maybe it's my end. I'm so sorry.
No, it's quite all right. Well, do you think it's about like this conscious embodying for men to embrace that sacred feminine principle within themselves, as well as the sacred masculine, and also vice versa for women to consciously embody?
Everyone needs to be aware of both, yes, energetically, and also in the environment, how they're manifesting around us and what we're doing every day. These energies are everywhere. And then, of course, ultimately, it's the inner understanding. There are some really interesting questions popping up, but do we relate to those, or do I wait for you?
You wait for us.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gathering all the questions and we're putting them in a document. So we'll answer as many as we can.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
I think too, could we open that up as a general question for everyone? Because I feel like Sherene and Adam would have some wonderful insights on that.
We absolutely can. Do either one of you want to address it?
Is there the topic or conversation generally, or something specific within it? Sorry if I...
Well, in terms of understanding each other, or not each other, the divine feminine, the sacred masculine, is there something that we're missing right now? Is there something, are there things that you see that most people are overlooking, or something that we need to be aware of as we're doing this dance? Because according to what I've heard from astrologers, is that if for the next 8 years, this masculine and feminine theme is going to be in the spotlight. And there's, you know, a lot of opinions about how it's playing out right this moment. And like Tashi pointed out, the sort of rebellious energy, you know, what, I guess if from an astrological point of view, what do we need to be aware of? What do we need to be cautious of? What do we need to be, where should the focus be?
Well, I guess what comes to mind as I was listening to just the flow of conversation and ideas here is that ancient astrology gives us a really good template for understanding the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. because, well, just for a brief example, you look at the language of essential dignities, for example, and you see the Venus ruled signs opposite the Mars ruled signs. Just a really basic idea, right? And I think that it's interesting that we're meeting right now as Venus is getting ready to sort of station and turn retrograde in a Mars ruled sign, Scorpio, and that there's always some need to figure out how to be yourself in astrology when you have a planet that's in the sign opposite to its own. So in ancient astrology, the word for this was called exile. So it's kind of like when Venus is in Mars's environment or Mars is in Venus's environment, it's a little harder. Like if I'm an astrologer and I have to go to my Southern Baptist family member's house for dinner or something, and like they're anti-astrology or something, it's hard to be myself in that environment. And similarly, in the language of ancient astrology, it's tricky to figure out how to do Mars in the space of Venus or how to do Venus in the space of Mars. And I think more and more what we're all realizing is that that's the exact challenge that we have to figure out how to do. I see, you know, my wife and I talk about this a lot because my wife obviously owns a business, runs her own business. She has Venus in Aries, Mars ruled sign, in her 10th house of career, right? So she gets a lot of like, we're so proud of you from other women and people in the community, so proud of you for being such an example of what other women can do, you know, like what women can do, and because she's, you know, a community leader or whatever. But then you'll also internally, she'll sometimes go through struggles or conflicts. Like doing all of this is also, I have to hire childcare, and I can't be exactly the mother that I want to be. So, and men, I think, go through different issues or different versions of the same kind of thing. Like I don't want to just be some stereotypical provider. Like I want to be emotionally involved with my kids and like that, or just, these are just really stereotype examples, but we're living in a moment, it seems to me, where we're all trying to figure out, well, how do you do the masculine within the feminine or the feminine within the masculine? And that question is a part of the ancient language of astrology because it was all based on the constant cycling of opposites and the tension between opposites. That's a vital creative component of how the world is turning and evolving, you could say. So I find that it's really fruitful, and it helps me, the language of astrology helps me to remember that these conflicts are timeless and archetypal, and that also takes some of the pressure off, because it's like these are really difficult conflicts, and sometimes it feels like every single social media debate that I see about these things is trying to solve the issue like on the spot, and we bear this incredible weight. And I think astrology also tells us, like, you know, the conflict between opposing archetypes is timeless. So I think there's a sense of peace in that.
Adam, I love that you're bringing up the word tension instead of opposition. And it's something that Gemini Brett, who's our inner circle guide this month, has brought to our attention. The language that we use in astrology and how much that continues to perpetuate or create situations. But if you think of it as tension instead of opposition, like already we're in a war. We're opposing each other. But tension, like you pointed out, creates this opportunity for creativity, and like there's this electricity in that. It's different than opposition. So everything you just said is so wonderful. And I think, again, one of the benefits or gifts of astrology is this language, like you said, and being able to tune into it and use it in our everyday life to understand what's happening. Okay, Sherene.
Yeah, I just want to say, from a Jungian perspective, we look at it in terms of the mother and the father complex that we're all working through, which is a lifetime.
Okay, just watch the hitting of the mic.
Sorry.
With your body, with your clothes, and with everything. We just want to hear everything you have to say.
It's the dancer in me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So working
Beautiful.
on the inner mother and father complex, the inner sacred marriage, we call it in Jungian psychology. This is the goal. So it's in the astrology, as Adam just pointed out, is the horoscope is a wonderful tool for understanding how each person is navigating that. It's a very unique individual thing. It's actually part of the individuation process in Jungian psychology of bringing together the inner masculine and feminine elements. But the work, I feel, as a psychologist, is to really look into those deep patterns with mother and father, and then how we've projected the inner goddess and the inner god onto our parents initially. And of course, there's always a disillusionment and a disappointment from that we're then working out through our most intimate relationships. You know, we're then projecting that inner god or goddess through our, what we call in Jungian psychology, the anima or animus projection onto the partner, and having to reclaim those projections so that we become conscious of, like, really it's our work to know what was missing in our early years, and not laying that on our partner and expecting them to fulfill those unmet needs. So,
Yeah.
and I think this then reverberates out into worldly conflict. Like if there's narcissistic wounds, we end up with very narcissistic leaders, or if there's, you know, we can see how this can really snowball out if we don't do the inner work. That's why they say, if you want to change the world, you start with yourself. And we do it in our relationships, the strongest mirror that we have.
Okay, now there's another theory about the feedback, Sherene.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Your earrings.
I'm in the midst of Mercury challenges.
It's
My
especially your
Mercury is
earrings.
gonna
Could
crack
you
up.
take those out and see if the earrings?
Ah, the earrings. My goodness. Okay.
They're so beautiful.
These
They're
are
so
also-
beautiful.
You were actually like
They're
trying to
also very-
entrain all of us with the shamanic trance with the.
I was. It's the dancer in me again. Yeah.
Exactly.
All
Well,
right.
very
Still,
rhythmic.
okay. I'm gonna sit
They
still.
solved the mystery. Thank you to our audience.
Better? Yay. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We found out the problem is.
Okay, Chris, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, well, really quick, what you said actually too, I love the idea of tension opposed to opposites. There we go. Because it is, like, it's the Hermetic law as well, law of opposites, law of polarities, where that tension, that pull, that back and forth keeps everything in motion. All these cycles it's perpetual motion. Life is perpetual motion. The universe is perpetual motion. And you need that tension to create those energetics.
I'm going to say something maybe a little controversial. I'll say that I feel like the word opposition needs to be included, because the ancient astrological philosophy was oppositional. It wasn't just about tension. The Platonic Academy, which had a huge important role in the language structure of astrology, was talking about opposition as a fundamental force of duality. And the tensing and relaxing of opposition can be creative or destructive, but it depends on us and our consciousness. And so I'm definitely the type of person who, when I'm talking with clients and that kind of setting, I'll talk about tension between the opposites because it's much more constructive. But it's important to understand that opposition is a real part of the actual linguistic theory of astrology, because so many times when clients aren't living through an opposition consciously, they will experience it as a very destructive form of literally being opposed by a boss, or literally being opposed by someone or something. So I think we have to try to, shift our consciousness within the experience of a transit so that the opposition becomes a creative tension. But I don't think I don't think whitewashing the language is a good idea. That's kind of where I stand on that.
For sure. No, that totally makes sense. And you're absolutely right. It is, it's also when certain trigger words will bring up, and that's just deconditioning the whole thing of language, which we don't have to get into now.
Yeah, it's
Can I
very
just-
Totally reason.
In Jung says tension of the opposites.
Right.
The tension of the opposites. Instead of a war, maybe it's about the creative tension of the opposites.
Well, you think of, like,
Complementary.
there was a wonderful book that James Hillman wrote, who was, Sherene, I'm sure you know Hillman, he was a student of Jung, and he wrote a book called A Terrible Love of War. And in that book, he really discusses Venus and Mars in Greek mythology were adulterous lovers. They were forbidden lovers. So there's something about the way that peace, the need for peace, is rooted in conflict. And conflict is in many ways also rooted in peace. And that's part of the duality of this plane. And he explores that in his book in a way that's just really, really fantastic, while always pointing to what is the healthy embodiment of this love that we have of you know, for example, what does healthy competition look like? So it's a sacred masculine, basically. Like, what is
Exactly.
the opposition piece in many ways is very Mars-like, right? Mars opposes. Mars rules the ancient sixth house, which is the house of opposition. So there's some way in which we have to figure out how to oppose while doing so in a way that also incorporates, includes, and harmonizes. And that's not an easy task, but I think we have lots of good examples. Like I'm really happy to see, you know, so I feel like since 2010, when I started my professional practice, every couple of years, there's like an amazing movement that's come out and sort of swept the globe. And it's been mostly peaceful in nature, yet it's been opposed to things that really need to change. And that kind of, that marriage of those themes that you see in people like Martin Luther King Jr. or, you know, Gandhi or what have you, I think, you know, that's kind of how I see it coming together, I guess.
Okay, I know, Tashi, you wanted to say something earlier. Do you still want to?
Yeah, I was just feeling all of this, and it's just so powerful, especially listening to all of you. You know, I'm just so happy to hear this live. But I want to say that the divine and sacred feminine and masculine energies, for me, I don't know about all of you, but I don't find them ultimately to be opposing. I know that opposites is a word that we use, but energetically, I just can't, that doesn't settle in me.
What does settle in you?
That they're of the same. They're just manifesting differently.
Okay, I wanted to offer a few things. When you're talking about that tension, I all of a sudden, and Sherene, it's probably because you're here, I'm seeing the tango duo and the man holding that space and the woman in her beautiful flow, and just the fact that there's that tension there actually creates this like this passion and this this amazing chemistry that is so attractive and so mesmerizing. So that's what I'm seeing visually. And then the healthy competition thing that you brought up, Adam, I just came back from Malaysia. My beloved was competing in the Asian Pacific Masters Games. So it was this big swim competition. It's like not only swimming though, they had all kinds of games like the Olympics. And you see these people, you compete against your age group, and you see all these people from all over the world coming together, and they're focused, like they want to win. They've been training, they've been, you know, dedicating their free time to getting in the best shape they can. They want to beat their times. And yet you see, so they all swim, they give it their all. And then afterwards, everyone's high-fiving each other. People are hugging, people are taking pictures of each other. So there's the focus, you know, that masculine focus and drive. And then there's still the love, you know, the love is still there, and the gratefulness. And that is the overall tone, even if you lost. So I think that we're learning all this. It's all emerging. I know within myself, this, to me, I think of it as the king and the queen archetype. They're talking to me all the time. I'm like figuring it out all the time, how to embody both of those archetypes within one human being. I have to just put this plug out there for this one teacher that I think is on the forefront of this new paradigm of masculine and feminine. And her name is Alison Armstrong. I don't know if you all are familiar with her. She wrote a book called The Queen's Code. She also wrote Keys to the Kingdom. And she's been studying men for over 20 years. And the way that she brings it all together, though, in this way that is so honoring and so respectful. So most of us don't have models of that.
Exactly.
We don't know what it looks like. We don't realize that what we're doing is castrating to a man, or we don't realize what we're doing is disrespecting someone. We don't know. We're not doing it on purpose, but so much of it is about bringing out the best in each other, and the things that we do that don't bring out the best in each other. So it's a beautiful, beautiful work if you're curious at all, and I think all of us need to be, because this is really the work for the next however many years. And astrology helps us see that. Like, this is the work. Like, you know, be proactive about it, do something about it. And her work for me is just like literally paradigm shifting, totally new eyes. Yeah. And I have 3 brothers and a dad. And so I thought I kind of got the whole male female thing. And the more I dig in, the more misconceptions I realized that I had. So Okay, you guys, that is a juicy topic. Let's go to Gail asking you, Sherene, because we went through Capricorn.
Oh, yeah.
If we
Yep.
can go through what each of the zodiac signs is working through and needing to heal, and what you help them do through the dance.
Sure. We'll do a quick tour.
Yeah.
So from head to feet. So head Aries, and if there's an Aries imbalance, often there can be headaches, migraines, often tension. We hold a lot of tension in the face. So I work a lot with people. I mean, one of the things we do in the dance is just becoming really aware of like how a lot of the energy's in the face. In fact, with authentic movement, a lot of what inhibits people is a self-consciousness, which is actually an Aries issue. How we're being seen, our appearance, any appearance issues or fears that we have around that. Working through that and just moving the energy. Ultimately, we're trying to move the energy out of the head because it's too much in the head with Aries sometimes, or even having our head forward. This is a very Aries thing, leading with the head like a ram. So that's quick Aries imbalance issue. Taurus rules the throat. So we work a lot with the voice and also the listening function. So one of the things I love the most in authentic movement is deepening your practice with listening, because we're all talking, but how often do we listen and how deeply do we listen? And it's an art form, and you can practice it through listening to music and listening to it with your entire body, with all 5 senses. And that will actually help you to become a better listener to everyone in your life and everything in your life, so that you're taking in through all 5 senses in that beautiful Taurian Venusian way. Gemini, arms, hands, wrists. We do a lot of, I mean, especially now that we're all on the computers and with the phone, I mean, like my hands actually hurt from all the texting these days. So we do a lot of, movements to move through the hands, arms, and wrists and fingers. And even this kind of brings in gyrokinesis, like self-massage and, just working through the fingers and getting the tension out and stretching the wrists, which I recommend everyone do every day because we're all so, we're using our hands and fingers more than ever, no? And in terms of psychological issues, Gemini, speaking of the opposites, it's the lover's archetype. It's the dance between the opposites, the duality, the masculine and the feminine. So if you want to work on that internally and you want to find more flexibility and versatility within your life, and you want to work on being able to express yourself through communication mediums, this is a great energy to work with. Cancer rules the stomach and the breasts. So in Cancer is our relationship to the mother, to the home, to the feminine, the divine feminine. This is one of the entry points here. She's more of the lunar energy, like the high priestess, the goddess energy, the moon. So we work, if you're having like digestive issues, or a lot of times emotions that are not processed end up in digestive problems for us. People will have like indigestion if they're not actually digesting their emotional experience. And often breast issues, like there's been a link. I mean, I hate when people say, oh, you caused this because you didn't have this issue. I don't like to say like breast cancer is caused by women who gave too much. It's not like that, but it does help to know that if there's an imbalance with the whole nurturing function, often it could show up in that area of your body in some way. It could be like a cyst or something. Leo is the spine and the heart. So it's all about strength. With Leo, we're working on strengthening and finding that self-confidence and self-expression and a little bit of theatrical, the dramatic, the ability to be playful and to bring in the inner child work through the Leo energy. Virgo is, now we're dealing with deeper assimilation with Virgo. Virgo is all about how does the body purify and detoxify itself, and how does it assimilate all of the little pieces of things that we take in. And the intestines are the Virgo area of the body, so it might sound strange. How do you work with that in terms of movement? It's more about, I think, understanding how the body's trying to assimilate your experience and what is essential for you. Virgo, like the intestines decide what's a nutrient and what's a toxin. So we psychologically are trying to figure out what's essential for us and how do we let go of the rest so that we're not cluttered in whatever way in our physical subtle body. Libra is all about the balancing function. It's the kidneys and the lower back. If we often feel things are out of balance with our partnerships, it can show up in the lower back area. We don't feel supported by our partner. It can show up as a block. You know, often people carry a lot of tension in the lower back. When you go get a massage, that's what often the massage therapists tell me. That's like, besides the neck and shoulders, that's number one for most people, blocked, which is interesting, communication. And also bearing too much weight. And then the Libra area is like, if there's an imbalance in your relationships, if like the reciprocity is off, you might feel it in the lower back or kidneys area, feeling depleted with your kidneys. Maybe you're not giving enough to yourself, you're giving too much to others, or it's just that function is out of whack. Scorpio is the genitals. With Scorpio, we do a lot of like belly dance kind of movements, because it's also the Kundalini, it's the like whole death, rebirth energy, and the sacred sexual energy. So a lot of kind of figure 8 energies, like things that, I don't know if any of you know about gyrotonic. It's kind of a revolutionary movement practice now that really I feel works on the Scorpio area of the body, because it's all about that really deep kind of, serpentine, like Kundalini activation through very circular movements. It's beautiful. I definitely
I know many people that do this. It's extraordinary.
It really is. It's so powerful and so deeply healing. But we do this in my movement practice also. I replicate a lot of it on the floor, which you can do. Gyrokinesis is another version of that. And then Sagittarius is the hips and thighs. So a lot of people hold a lot of tension in the upper thighs. You know, a lot of people need to stretch that out through pigeon pose and things like that, where especially because it's sitting all day. But if you have issues with like really expanding your life, like if you're contracted or you're just like holding on and you're afraid to like break through that Scorpio area of your psyche, where you're holding on that fixed emotional energy, and it's time to break out like the horse into the open field. You need that kind of horsepower energy in the thighs, right? For moving, expanding forward. So often if there's a fear of that, people will get really locked up in the pelvis and the hips. There's usually a lot of tightness in the hips too, connected to shoulders too, which is interesting because Gemini, Sag, like there's a connection, opposite signs. We talked about Capricorn. Aquarius is the ankles, actually. So often if we feel like we're out of touch with our long-term goals or sort of our bigger purpose in our relationship with our community, we could have a weakness there, and often you hear people have like issues moving forward, like moving forward with your goals or not feeling like you're part of something bigger. It could show up actually in the ankles. And in the nervous system. Aquarius is also very connected to our nerves. Feet is Pisces. I love working with the feet. I feel like it's the source of everything. So if you have Pisces issues, if you feel like there's issues with boundaries, or you just feel like you're off, or you've taken on everyone else's energy, or you feel depleted, of course, reflexology is excellent, but you can do a lot through your feet. People buy those like Yamuna balls, to like work out their feet. Those little reflexology balls are great. Everyone should have a set of those.
Or walking on stones.
Or just like the earthing. Yeah, like walking on stones, or just like, paying attention to your feet, even like, again, self-massage. Anything that really helps you to get into the points, the acupressure points in the feet, which are connected to the entire body, which is interesting if you think about it, because Pisces is connected to the entire zodiac. It's like an amalgam, right? So the feet are connected to if you get points done in the feet, you're working on the entire body. So that was a quick, I hope I did it. I was trying to be
Take a breath.
compact as possible for time's sake, but
Just so precious.
Hope we covered all the bases.
We did. Thank you so much, Sherene.
My pleasure.
Okay, so a question for Tashi from Stephanie. Why do you believe the masculine is the container?
And Stephanie, you did watch the recording?
I'm not sure. So maybe that's a call to just watch the actual full presentation that you gave.
Well, I can talk about it, but I want to know if she did. I'm curious, because I can go further and elaborate, or I can just rephrase.
Definitely saw in the chat that she did. So I guess a little bit more info on that.
Oh, you did see that. Okay, more info. Great. Okay. Okay, so when we say the divine and sacred feminine receives the masculine, which it does when we look at it on a visual level, there is something that's containing the movement of that act. And it's still like a mountain, if I was to put it as a visual. So what grows on that, you describe it as the feminine. So what moves, the display, the dance, the elements as well, you could also put it in that container. So the stillness would be the masculine, the presence. Does that make sense?
I think so. We'll see if Stephanie let us know if that.
Yes, Steffi.
Okay. This is a general question for any or all three of you. Jim says, is there something we're missing? If the sacred masculine is represented by the animus, and the animus represents spirit specifically, are we not missing that spiritual masculine energy today, with so many men falling from grace from sexual scandal, and the clergy also? Give you a second to sit with that.
I mean, I'm going to real quick say yes. That's also, I mean, tracing back so far in the past, we're all talking about our culture being fundamentally disconnected from nature, from living cycles, from the universe, from spirituality. And so now we're having that whole resurgence. I mean, just to summarize, we're having that resurgence this desire to reconnect with spirit and find that out through our individual path. So I would say, yes, it does come from that disconnect.
I would say, I would just add to that, that I think also there's a disconnect from men with their anima, which is probably even more of a challenge, because if they're cut off from their inner sacred feminine, then I don't know what's going on between their inner masculine, but there's a disconnect, obviously, for them, the way they're going to treat the women in their lives. You know, if there's an unconscious anima energy present that they're fighting, or they're acting out in a negative way, I guess we would say, trying to fight some unresolved issues with the mother, perhaps, and then projecting that into their relationships, or even projecting it, like having a disrespect even of Mother Earth. That it's interesting. We have things like, if men are overly materialistic, that can be an unconscious relationship with the mother. If men feel like there's no problem, destroying Mother Earth, that shows disrespect or disconnect from the inner anima. So
men or women. I mean,
yeah, yes.
Show that in women too, don't you think?
Absolutely, if it's disconnected. But he was asking about the men, so I was just focusing.
And I would love to also say, if I could, that if that was healthy, it would allow the display, it wouldn't try and control it. So this energy won't, claim. There'll be a free-flowing vibration connected to how it's managing what it's receiving. And that's why you see all these complexes now going on externally, because there's no respect to that display. There's a wanting to own it in an unhealthy way. There is a wanting to dominate, again, in an unhealthy way, not in a healthy, confident way, if that makes sense. So again, if you look at the mountain and then what grows from that, the mountain isn't saying, oh, tree don't grow there, or, flowers don't bloom there. It's allowing that display, and it's holding it and creating that ground or that structure. Does that make sense? I hope so.
It does. Yeah. Okay. Adam, did you want to address that one?
No, I'm good. I don't think I have anything to add for what everyone else already said. Yeah.
Okay. This is another general question for you all. Athena asks, how does Saturn's placement in the chart influence one's health? Adam, do you want to start with that?
Oh, sure. Well, I think it's probably, first of all, it may depend on what kind of astrologer one speaks with, because you may be looking at Saturn very differently in an archetypal psychological chart reading than you would, say, in a horary reading, where someone's asking a specific outcome-oriented question about their health. Will it get worse, or will it get better, or something like that? Or if someone's inquiring about maybe their health overall for the course of their life from a more predictive standpoint, like, will I struggle with, like in Ayurvedic medicine, will I have perhaps certain kinds of imbalances that'll tend to stand out more, have to be a little bit more proactive or mindful about those, or what have you, in which case, Saturn may be used to address all different issues in one's life or one's health. And Saturn could represent something as mundane as one's finances, if it rules your second house in ancient astrology, for example, or could say something about, children, if it rules your fifth, your pregnancy or something like that. So I wouldn't ever just assume that Saturn will have something specific to say about one's health. It could, but it may not, because the ancient astrologers conceptualize the heavens as like a kind of like a cosmic courtroom in which the gods are looking at the life of the individual and reflecting the karma of the individual, as well as the the dictates of their life in some broad sense. And then we of course have free will within certain parameters and so forth. But I think I would say that first, is that Saturn can be very, very flexible, and any planet could be up in the heavens sort of offering eyewitness testimony about a person's health. Mercury could be a health indicator in your chart, or Saturn, or whatever. And I say that because sometimes Saturn is a little bit, people like sometimes hate on Saturn a little bit, like, oh, Saturn's such a heavy planet, like surely it must have to do with your like ill health, or if you're feeling whatever. But a lot of the times it could be something totally different than Saturn. So that's first. But then I would just say that it depends on the placement, it depends on the sign, depends on house rulership. So it depends on a lot of things. But when I see Saturn, for example, when Saturn is involved in a chart and it's an indicator of some health challenges in life, I often see overwork being a problem, like taking on too much responsibility, or being the one to shoulder a lot of burden, like the responsible one. Or sometimes it can be an indication of melancholy or depression or lethargy or heaviness, things like that. But I'm also not a medical astrologer at all. So those are some of the general things I would see Saturn as potentially indicating, or sometimes isolating oneself, or kind of being sometimes hermetic in a good way, but sometimes sort of isolated and cut off from others. And I think when Sherene earlier was mentioning Capricorn, and what was it, shame, guilt, and fear, Sherene, was that
Yes,
it?
yes.
Yeah, like I think psychologically, as a Capricorn being a Saturn ruled sign, traditionally I would also go to challenging Saturn placements in the chart, sometimes being about those themes in the psyche and how they become a part of your spiritual journey. Because of course, many great mystics on our planet have really intense sort of like Saturn stories, you might say, like Mother Teresa, who many people just see as this glowing saint, but she also suffered at times from really intense depression. And that's just the dark night of the soul that Saturn can be a part of, which may be really afflicting on one level, but spiritually it's also the motor that's driving someone to discover inner depths, or connect to the greater whole.
An interesting thing to look at in one's chart, it's on topic, slightly to the left, is Saturn in the 8th house, if anyone has that. I've been told that, and I've been taught that anyone with that placement normally fights death, right to the end, lives very long a lot of the time.
I just wanted to add too that I've noticed when Saturn transits the ascendant, it can often be, if there are any weaknesses or there are issues around the health, tends to come up. I've noticed an interesting phenomenon that people give up sugar a lot of times. Saturn kind of takes the sweetness out, like having to eliminate sugar when Saturn is transiting the ascendant, or sometimes the sun as well. It can be an indication of Saturn tends to constrict, so putting a limitation around the health so that you make the changes necessary. Like Adam was saying, sometimes it's because we overwork, or we've taken on too much negativity, or we've been overly indulgent in sugar intake or something. And Saturn will come and help bring the corrective, measure through contraction. And it does seem like when it comes to the ascendant being a big part of our health, often I notice there can be issues. I don't know if any of you have experienced that personally, but I've seen that with a lot of my clients. Saturn transiting the ascendant.
Yeah, I mean, my mom had that transit, and speaking of limitation, she was, that was when her and my father were going through a divorce.
It can be that too.
But as she was doing that, this is Saturn in Sagittarius, her second Saturn return, right? And she was feeling in some ways very free, and started doing a lot of bicycling. And then she hurt her knee and had to have a surgery on her knee. And for a long period of time was on one of these scooters that you kind of have to hop around on, right? And she was very limited at a moment where she was also feeling very free, in a sense, restarting her life.
Yeah.
And we had such a wonderful, my mom she's okay with what I do for a living, like, but you know, it's like sometimes I think she doesn't know so much about astrology. So that actually was a gateway for me to talk with her about Saturn. And she's told me since then what a noticeable shift she had in relation to that period of limitation. She got into reading more, she just poured into her studies more. And the freedom wasn't lost after a shift in understanding about the archetype, in a sense, which I think that's the kind of paradox about Saturn, is that Saturn can be the limits that also the exact shape of a limit also becomes the shape of a lesson, and then there's a great freedom in that.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, freedom through restriction.
Mm-hmm.
It's a paradox.
It really is. I think Adam, in our talk, we talked about that exact point, and it is. You have the limitations can bring about great freedom. It's actually amazing.
So I was
Teach you
standing
so
in a
much.
field last night, walking a couple dogs, and I looked up at the sky and I could see so clearly Venus and Jupiter, and then also Saturn and Mars, like up in the sky. And I had this moment of like, wow, first of all, they're so gorgeous. And second of all of this fear that we have of some of these planets, it was just, again, it was one of those moments where I was laughing. It felt funny because there's just these beautiful glowing spheres in the sky, and we assign so much meaning around that. And I feel, again, this all happened all summer with the Mars retrograde. I could feel the benevolence, the benevolence in all of it. So this whole, freedom and limitation and all these things, it's how we see it, So, okay, I want to do a time check with you because we only have an hour scheduled, but we do have a few more questions. If we can ask, I'd love to, but if you need to go, I want to respect your time as well. So you three okay?
Let me ask Raggedy Ann.
Yeah. Okay, Raggedy Ann, a few more minutes? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. If you need to jump off, just let me know. Okay.
It can't be over so soon.
I know.
We're just getting warmed up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like an hour's gone at all.
Right?
No. Okay. Tashi asked, Pi asked Tashi, what do you feel the
Pi.
Yes. What do you feel the upcoming Venus retrograde in Scorpio can bring to help heal the feminine masculine?
I just love Venus in Scorpio. Okay. To help heal the divine and sacred feminine and masculine, did you say?
Okay. Yes, it is. What does it mean? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you feel the upcoming Venus retrograde in Scorpio can bring to help heal the feminine and masculine?
I think that you couldn't find a better retrograde than this one, because it is the truth-bearing, raw, and constant. I think it's not just going to pass through. It'll be there all the time, screaming from the depths, in terms of a presence. And you need to, if you were going to really take this on, you would really need to work with how that relates to your own star map and what it's aspecting and how it brings out, the polarities within your own star map. But I feel that anyone that wants to work with healing this on an energetic principle solely, with such a transit going on, it's the best time, especially working with, again, truth, bringing things from the subconscious to the conscious mind, linked to past relationships, traumas, things that we're bearing from, even lifetimes gone by because of the other planetary aspects that are also complementing this retrograde. What do you think, everyone?
Oh, yeah. I think it's very powerful. It's also going to have that really powerful opposition to Uranus as part of it, which I feel is a breakthrough energy and an insight, bringing like epiphanies, I feel, coming in.
I love that word, exactly. And sudden, and just, you don't have to really plan it, but you have to be ready. You have to be ready to receive it.
Yes. and then Venus will be retrograding back into her home sign of Libra in November, which I feel like will do the deep descent first into Scorpio, into the shadow realm of the relationships and having to look at all the shadow projections. And then when we get to Libra, hopefully we can find some of the balance, in the art of the relations.
What do you when the word shadow elicits some sort of like fear or trepidation, what do you say to people?
Fear is
No.
healthy. That's what I say to people.
What
I
was
always
that?
tell I always tell people fear is healthy. Fear is a normal part of life. We have fear of fear, it's a problem. But having a relationship with fear is an absolutely vital part of how we know we're alive, because it's so instinctual. It's when it tilts into trying to rid ourselves of fear, when instead of understanding it or having a relationship with it, in my opinion, that it becomes a problem. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll meet with clients, and like usually at the root of whatever I'm meeting with someone about, it's because there's anxiety about something in the future. And what I always try to tell people right away, especially when it seems like they're really trying to communicate to me that they don't want to be seen as having anxiety, the first thing I try to say is like, it's okay to have anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, we all have it. So I think it's really important to validate the presence of fear in the world. Like the Buddha said, everything is made of fear. So I think that there's a difference between, for me, there's a difference between the fear and awe kind of component, where it's a holy and sacred relationship to the unknown, or to uncertainty, or to the realization of impermanence, or those things that can bring us inward and deeper to truth and to each other and things like that. Whereas the unhealthy level of fear is the one that, polarizes and kind of, tries to tear us apart or whatever. But I always kind of try to stick up for the underdog words. You know what I mean? Like you use like opposition or fear or whatever, because I think more than needing to be afraid of fear or oppose opposition or something like that, we need to figure out what it looks like to have a healthy understanding of these kinds of words, at least in astrology.
That's a very Scorpionic way to put it.
Yes.
I'm just showing up for Venus and
I love
Scorpio.
it. I love it. And it's also a continuation from whatever story was going on in the fall of 2008, from that Venus retrograde in Scorpio too. So my dog
It was 2010, I think, wasn't it?
Or sorry, 2010, 8 years ago, excuse me. Yes. Sorry, I'm thinking of Pluto ingress. I've been talking so much about that with Pluto stationing direct that I have 2008 in my head. 2010, 8 years ago. Yes. Thank you.
I feel like when my fear comes up, this Venus retrograde, I think, has the ability to, with the shadow work that we're talking about, to, kind of press the button. Like, I think a lot of us are really, one of the things that I know I get afraid of, you guys maybe too, is when I know that I'm going to have to look at something that I don't want to look at, I get afraid. But my work over a long period of time with ayahuasca really taught me that kind of fear is also an invitation. It's my friend. It's my instincts guiding me toward a kind of encounter that's important. And so I think we have to have practice. This is one of my things that I'm really passionate about, being both into yoga and astrology, similar to Sherene with dance, is that if we have practices that can honor and recognize different emotions and move them through the body, with breath and things like that, then they all become assets and allies to us in our spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Like consciously embodying it. It's not going to go away just by ignoring it. The problems aren't going to go away. So it's good to look at it like the snake squarely in its face and jump right into its maw, and it's more empowering, and you can befriend it.
Yes. Yeah.
And learn so much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you guys, just a couple more. Samuel wants to know your sun, moon, and rising.
For all of us?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Chris, do you want to start?
Oh, sure. Sun, I'm an Aquarius sun, a Cancer moon, and a Pisces rising.
Okay. All right. Sherene?
I am a Scorpio sun, Sagittarius rising, and Pisces moon.
All right. Adam?
I am a Taurus rising, Capricorn moon, and Cancer sun.
And Tashi?
Libra sun, Libra rising, and pretty much everything else is in Scorpio.
Fantastic. All right. One more, and then I'm going to ask like the final question for all of you. Real quick one for you, Sherene, from Katrina. She wants to know, did you go to the Hanuman Summit, Yoga and the Subtle Body?
No, I don't know what that is. That sounds amazing, though.
It does sound.
It really
Love to
does.
know more. Is that a yearly thing?
Another question for you, Sherene. Barbara wants to know, I find working with technology, my eyes get strained. Any exercises for this?
Yes, that's an Aries issue. Something that's really good is just very simple, is just warming up your hands. Do this every morning and every night, and then just placing them over the eyes. Like once you get the heat and your own energy in there, it's very healing. There's also like eye exercise charts that you can get that have like little mandala or little patterns that you can work to strengthen your eyes also that I've seen, but just as a physical exercise, I use that. And eyes are also connected to Aries. The
I
head.
was told looking at blue helps a lot, whether it be blue sky, blue sea, the color.
Oh,
It
yeah.
totally pacifies this.
The
Nice.
blue. Oh, nice.
Okay.
Awesome. That's super helpful.
Is
No,
Raggedy
really.
Ann sending a message to all of us?
This is my sacred feminine.
Yeah, she was mine as a child. Loved Raggedy Ann.
Oh my God.
She was my mother.
I do have to say, you two men are such a nice balance of the sacred masculine and divine feminine. Like you both are embodying that so well. Thank you for being here and doing that. The Raggedy Ann is just really funny. Okay, so it's your daughters? Is that what it's your?
Yeah, we're at Grandma and Grandpa's this evening, and it's just this room is where they keep some of her playthings when she's here. So this is her great grandmother made this for her.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So cool. Wow. Okay, all right. I'm going to ask the final question for each of you, and I would love if you could take a moment to just share any message for the audience that you want to leave them with. You know, so like a final message that you'd love everyone to hear at this time. And let's start with Chris.
Well, the one that's coming up is totally embrace that shadow and befriend those darker emotions and just jump into it. And this is not going away. And this is for myself too.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Okay. Who's ready?
Okay, I'll go. I would love to invite everyone to make time every day for your body, because especially now it's so easy to leave the body. You know, make sure you're actually in your body because with this, all the screen time, we exit. Often we don't realize we're like somewhere over here. And so much healing happens, I mean, by being embodied. So whatever your particular practice is, just making even 10 minutes a day for it. I think it's essential right now.
Very nice. Sherene, as you speak the whole time, I'm thinking of the blessing that hula has been for me. It's the same. Just in terms of being able to embody the feminine aspect of myself. You know, when I moved to Hawaii, the masculine aspect was so cultivated. So hula just really helped me.
Oh, great.
I loved your videos, Amanda, and your photos. I saw them. Gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's such a gift. But yeah, just that movement, you know,
Yes.
so important.
Very, very good for the Scorpio.
Yes. Yes.
Should I go?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did a talk on the importance of prediction in astrology. What is prediction's role? Because today, I think we have a lot of really good, dynamic, process-oriented inner work that we can do with birth charts. So one of the things I've been really curious about is what does the role of outcome-oriented or prediction-oriented astrology have spiritually? Like, what kind of purpose can it serve? And I think the way that I've seen that come through in my own life has been that when I can embrace that weird paradox of having free will and being a co-creative part of reality, but that also there are some things that will come to pass that are out of my hands, that are in the hands of my guides or of spirit or the universe, that there are certain elements of my path that are out of my control, that it adds to my ability to surrender and realize the limitations of my control or my individual power, you know. And so that's one thing that I'm very passionate about. Studying ancient astrology for me is something that I'm trying to do so that it can be married to modern process-oriented psychological astrology. I see the role of ancient astrology in that kind of work as some elements, and if done in the right way with care and stewardship of the soul, can be utilized to help people understand that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be the controllers of everything. And then that's where I think a lot of the fear and guilt and shame is also generated, is in thinking I'm responsible for everything. And I think that we also live in a cosmos where there are intelligences that are greater than us, that are a part of our guidance and unfolding. And so some elements of being able to predict the future with astrology, if done in the right way, can help people surrender that not every part of my journey is up to me. There are other forces here that are corroborating a story with me, and being able to surrender to them, I think, is part of the way I see ancient astrology being able to bring something really healthy to our spiritual journey.
Wow, Adam, there's like a puzzle piece that just went into place for me with what you just said. That's amazing, because one of the themes we've been talking about all week is it fate? Is it free will? What does that dance look like? How much of it is fate? How much of it is free will? And I just, for whatever reason, the way you just explained that paradox was really, really helpful. And I was thinking, if you just take the microcosm of your day, there's certain things that you do in your day that are totally self-driven. Like you just want to do them and you do them. But then there's other things that happen in your day where it's because someone else came in and needed something from you, or stepped in your way, or whatever it is. So it's both, as we go throughout life, it's both. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. All right. And Miss Tashi dos Santos.
And to extend on what Adam was saying was so lovely, this interconnectedness, raising consciousness, I think, is through really accepting the interconnectedness. And astrology, the platform itself is extraordinary. We can even see, when we can see the ripples of where the interconnectedness takes place in our charts, and where we're bound to things that are bigger than our control, and how to, learn from those influences. But my closing message, I guess, would be that we're all in this together, and we just have to really feel that nothing that we're going through is just our experience. And I think that creates so much space to love more and to do your best.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun today. Literally the time, I'd have to say, went the fastest today than it has the entire week. I think part of it is wanting to hold on to this event. But it is the final day. You will have access to the live Q&As. If you don't upgrade, you'll have access through the end of tomorrow. If you purchase the upgrade package, you'll have access to all the talks, all the audios, all the transcripts, all of the live Q&A panels, and all of the free gifts for life. So if you have resonated with this event, if you want to catch what you missed, if you want to revisit things over and over, now is the time. And just if you want to try it and see if it is right for you, you can. We do have a 30-day guarantee on the upgrade package. So check it out, see if it works for you. And my final message is very similar to Tashi's, in that we're all in this together, and we get to keep exploring and learning from others' perspectives, and seeing how that opposition or that tension can continue to play out in beautiful ways. And so I think that this is an invitation for all of us. It's not going away. The feeling of tension, or the feeling of dramatic change, that is one of the biggest themes that came out of this event, as well, is that we're literally on the precipice of something so new. And in that, we are in that dark period of feeling sometimes confused or overwhelmed, or things feel heavy. But if we can hold on to the idea that we are the imaginal cells in the process of the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, there's a liquefaction process that happens in between, and those imaginal cells are activated, and we are creating something new together. I really think that is just a beautiful image for all of us to carry as we go into our lives, into the world.
It's gonna make me cry now.
And
Oh my gosh.
cross paths with people all over the planet. So we at Astrology Hub are so, so grateful once again to all of you for being here, for tuning in, for hearing the call, for making the space in your schedule to show up and to participate. It is really such a blessing to know you and to be connected in this way. Okay, so we won't see you tomorrow, but you will have the option for the encore day. So make sure you vote for your favorite talks and or for the ones that you really wish that you'd been able to see. We will have that encore day tomorrow. The email that enables you to vote for it is going to go out today. All right, everybody, thank you so, so much for being here. And once again, thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Amanda.
Aloha.